Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Brad Lone Wolf, and today it's going to be yet another follow-on video from the buddy burner that I did about a month ago now, 6 weeks ago now. And I was reminded that I actually used to construct really lightweight stoves, trangia burner type style stoves, out of drinks cans. Now there's probably plenty of videos on YouTube showing how to make these can stoves, and they're either called penny stoves or toucan stoves, and there's a variety of different ways of making them. Some using a single can, some using two cans, hence toucan stove. I prefer using two cans. Now it does produce a fair amount of leftover material, but I've just found personally, in my experience, and it's just a personal thing, that they work slightly better with two cans rather than using one can. So with that being said, I'm going to show you how I go ahead and make some of the toucan stoves that I make. I'm going to be primarily focusing on three different versions, and they one of them's called an internal burner, one of them's called an external burner, and the other one's called an inverse burner, and you'll understand why when you see it. These aren't my designs, these are designs that I've copied from elsewhere. I'm just showing you how I make them. And yeah, they're, as ever with these things, they've got their own pros and cons to each of them. So without further ado, let's get on and make these stoves. Okay, so in order to make the toucan stoves, the first thing you're going to need is a couple of drinks cans. The standard 330mm drinks cans. Now you can use bigger, you can use wider, and you can use the smaller stoves, the smaller cans such as the Red Bull cans. These I find give the best overall performance in terms of stability and volume of fuel. In addition, you'll need some sort of craft knife, preferably the extendable craft knife, such as that, and you'll see why in a second. You will also need a pair of pliers. Now that just happens to be a multi-tool, but it's a pair of pliers anyway. And you'll need an offcut of wood. Now this is probably just over 1 centimetre thick. Obviously the thicker the wood you use, the more volume you have for fuel capacity. It's entirely up to you, but obviously you've got to remember, the thicker it is, the more fuel capacity you'll have. And then I'm going to be using this, but you can use just an ordinary sharp knife. You can actually use this knife if you wanted to, but I'm going to be using a cordless screwdriver / drill with a couple of drill bits. Now, as I say, you can actually do this with just a knife. You don't need a drill, but I just find it slightly easier. Right, that being said, let's put these to one side. Now, again, this comes from experience, but I tend to find that it's easier to drill holes in the can while it is still complete. And the reason for that is obviously cylinders are they're stronger. So this that I'm going to be putting in the center here is a 5mm hole. Now I'm going to swap out to the 4mm hole. Now the first variant I'm going to be making is what I call the internal burner, and that actually has the burner holes around the outside, the inside of the ring base. So again, I've actually now swapped to a 4mm drill. Okay, you have to be quite careful so you don't deform the can as you do this. It's the disadvantage with using drill bits is you can end up holding the can so hard that you actually end up deforming the can. Okay. Now that's actually gone through the side of the can down there, but it's actually gone through there, but that doesn't matter because I'll be cutting off below that. Anyway, through experimentation, I've found that the best number for an internal burner is actually 8 holes around the inside. And the reason we don't use just a normal power drill is, well, I think most of you can figure out why. We'll end up destroying the can, and we don't want that. Now this is where it starts getting a little bit tricky, because although I have left the can completely intact, obviously I'm putting holes in it, which is weakening the actual structure of the can. So the last 2 holes tend to be the hardest to drill. And the drill bit's actually slipped down further than it should have done. Not that that's a problem. Right. Okay. So 8 holes are now in the bottom of the can. I'm now going to turn the can the correct way up. Pop out all the little dents that I put in it. I'm now going to bring in the offcut of wood and the craft knife. What I'm actually going to do, because the craft knife isn't quite long enough, I'm going to remove the blade itself and hold it so the blade meets the can, and as I turn the can, starts scoring through. Now you have to be very careful when you're doing this, because the craft knife is sharp. It's designed to be sharp. It will cut through. The trick to this is to take it slow. Because if you rush it, you'll get ragged edges. So I would probably speed this up slightly while I do this, and you'll see the results in a few minutes. Okie dokie. So there's the can separated. So this is now just going to be waste. Now, no matter how carefully you cut, the base of the can, you will probably find that there are burrs. So one reason to have the pliers is just to get rid of those burrs. I'm going to put that in the bin. Right, so this is the top. This will be the top of our burner, so it'll actually be like that once construction is completed. I now have to do a second can. This is what's called a toucan stove. This one's slightly easier though. This one's slightly easier in that I don't have to do any drilling into the base of this one. All I have to do is cut around the bottom and cut the bottom off. So you've already seen me do it once, you don't want to see me do it again, so I'm going to pause the video here, and when I come back I'll have the base of this can off, and then we'll move on to the next stage. Okay, so that's the second can base cut away, and at the moment I don't need the craft knife anymore, so I'm going to put that back in place. Put that away safely. Like so. There we go. Right. So the knife is now, or the craft knife is now safely away. Now, obviously, these two cans are the same diameter, so putting them together will require a little bit of ingenuity. Now, this is where some people will say, well, do you need to weld them or anything like that? No, absolutely not. This doesn't need, these toucan stoves don't need a huge amount of tools to create. Like I say, you don't need the drill. I just use it because it's slightly easier. So what you do is you take your pliers, take the base of the can, the one without the holes in it, and you reach down to just above where the shoulder is, and you just crimp and twist the metal. The idea being that you are effectively shortening and making a slightly smaller diameter on the can without compromising much of the integrity or the strength of the can itself. Now these crimps don't have to be exact. And you might find that you have to go around 2 or 3 times just to get the fit correct. Because the idea is, yeah, I'm going to have to go around a couple more times. The idea is that you just push these together, and at one point they become almost inseparable. Not completely, because obviously it is just a push fit. But if you get it good enough, it will almost feel like they're inseparable. That's a bit too crimped. That's all right. Obviously, again, this is better taken slowly rather than trying to rush it. Believe me, I have tried rushing these before and they do not work. Slow and steady is definitely the way forward with these, whichever version you're building. Just a little bit more there. All right, let's see how we get on with that. And the idea is, yeah, perfect. So the idea is you crimp it just enough so that they push together like so. I'm going to bring this piece of wood back in and just push down nice and evenly. Check it all around. Make sure it's sitting at the right level. As I say, these, you can pull these apart. They are literally just a push fit. Oh, I might have pushed that a little bit too far. No, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. So therein lies your toucan stove. That is, as I say, that is an internal burner. The reason it's called, or the reason I call it an internal burner, is because the jets face inside. It does mean that it creates a hotter spot, which in theory means that your water is going to boil quicker. However, it's not always the case. Right, there are 2 more designs that I am going to show you, and then we will actually test these out. It might be tomorrow now, but we will test these out. So I'm going to pause the camera here. I'll pause the video here, and then I will show you the 2 other types that I'm going to make. Right, so there you see the 3 variations in pretty much the same design. Now, the one you watched me make was that one, and I've realised I've been calling these internal burners. I should really be referring to them as internal jets rather than internal burners, or jets, should I say. So the jets on this are on the inside. The pros to this type of burner is that the flame is concentrated and theoretically heats up water quicker. It does have a con in that you need something to support your pot on above it, otherwise obviously it's not going to burn. The first variation is this one with the jets on the outside. Now, the pro with this one is you don't need a pot stand, theoretically, to boil water. You can just put your pot on top, and it's got the strength actually to hold it on there, and that is true. I've done that before. Disadvantage, or the con to this, is you will need like a little priming tin underneath the stove, and you'll see how I do that in order to make it work properly. So that is the con to those ones. The third variation, now this one might not look as if it's completely different. It is a slight variation. It is still a toucan stove, so it's still made out of two cans, but instead of the crimps being on the bottom can, the crimps are actually on the top can. So the jets will come out the side, very similar to the external jet model. The con with this one, however, is your crimps have to be more regular than what these two are like, because the crimps that you make, they will actually turn into the jets, and you'll see that when I come to light them. So the reason that these are called penny stoves in some videos is because the way what you're supposed to do is, after you've filled them, the burner, and before you light it, you actually put a penny over the filling cap or the filling hole. It's almost like a semi-pressurized system. The idea being that no fuel can come out the top, or no flame can come out the top. But as the flame is actually, or as the gas escapes, it actually creates kind of a vacuum which pulls the penny down slightly and creates, like I say, almost semi-pressurizes it, if that makes any kind of sense. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set this lot up outside. I'm going to do just a quick burn on each of these. I'm not going to do boiling water now until tomorrow because the sun is setting, but I'll do the first initial burns of these, just so it gets rid of any excess moisture or anything inside the actual cans itself. There are a couple of other things that I want to mention, but I will do those once we're outside. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I'm outside now, and about to do an initial burn on each of these stoves. Now, the one thing I did want to mention is there is no wick inside this. There's no filling, there's no cardboard filling, fiberglass filling, or anything like that. It is literally just the cans, and they will work like this, but they are better with a wick inside it. Anyway, so we're gonna light up the internal jet model first. As you probably know, these are all going to run off of methylated spirits. I'm going to put a huge amount in there, just enough to get a burn. What I'm going to do as well is just make sure that the outside is wet. Penny goes on, and then okay, it doesn't seem like that's gone off, which, to be fair, with these type of stoves, it does happen. You don't initially get a burn. Something's not quite right with that. That'll be white. Not what I want. Now, obviously, as I say, this is an initial burn, so it's not going to be at its most efficient just yet. But you can see how it works. Okay, so next up, it's the external jets. Next up, it's the external jets. So these jets are on the outside of the can itself. And unlike the internal jets, as I say, you don't need a pot support or a pot stand to work with this, but you do need, do you know what, I'm going to go and get another couple of pennies. Right, I'm back with another couple of pennies. So as I was saying, this is the next stove. This is the external jet stove. The advantage to this one is you don't need an external or a pot stand to use it. Disadvantage, however, is you do need to carry one of these. Now this is just the top off of a standard tin or a standard can, but I've cut it on the side rather than the top to leave a little bit of a rim on the outside, and you'll see what the advantage to that is in a second. So I'm going to prepare it in the same way. I am actually now going to extinguish that flame. Methylated spirits in the same way. In this case, it doesn't matter. There's a little bit of overspill because we actually want a little bit of overspill. Not much, just a little bit of overspill into the rim. Obviously, you can put methylated spirits into the can lid before you put the penny stove on, but I didn't think of that because I'm stupid. Right, so this time we're actually lighting methylated spirits. We're actually lighting the methylated spirits in the can lid. It acts, there we go, it acts as a primer. Such a small amount. Theoretically, by the time the fuel in the can lid actually runs out, the fuel on the inside is actually vaporized and is becoming, it's actually burning. There we go, that's settled down now to how it should look and how it should work. And okay, last but by no means least is the variation on the external jets. So same again. A little bit of methylated spirits. Too much. Penny goes on. Don't think that went up. Might have to use the can lid again just to prime it. We'll do that. Sounds like it's going. Yeah, that's going. So again, the advantage to this one is that you can put a pot stand straight on, or you can put a pot straight on top of it. Don't need a separate pot stand. Disadvantage is obviously you need to prime it again. And it does seem to dance around a lot more. It's a little bit concerning. Okay, and that one's almost burnt out. That's fine because I didn't put a lot of methylated spirits in there. Obviously I didn't fill these up all the way, as I was just doing an initial burn on all of these just to get rid of any moisture left on the inside of these cans. However, tomorrow I will do a full burn and I will time them all to see how long they last. And yeah, hopefully we'll see if we can actually boil a litre of water, or how close we can get to boiling a litre of water. Right, so that's this part of the video done, and the next part will be, well, be a few seconds for you, but it'll be tomorrow for me. So I'll see you then. Okay everybody, so it's now the next day, and we're going to try, well, there's not much methylated spirits left, but we'll try what we can. So this is going to be full fill. I'm going to put a pot stand around the internal jets, and we're going to see how well, if it can boil a litre of water. Oop, too much methylated spirits, but it's on the tile this time. It's on the tile today, so it's not going to burn. Right, matches. Typical. I'd have to get rid of the meth spillage anyway. I think what I did yesterday when I made this particular burner was I might have split the can at some point on the bottom base where I pushed it down. Maybe pushed it a bit too hard, which is why it's leaking. So yeah, if that happens, if you happen to split the can, then obviously don't use it. Right, okay, so I think that's actually gone out, which gives us an idea. Well, it actually leads to the conclusion, a good conclusion, that actually these stoves perform better with a wick. So, yeah. Anyway, move on. Okay, so this is the first of the external jet type. So as I say, these type, you're supposed to be able to burn them, use them without having to use a pot stove. A pot stand, not a pot stove, pot stand. Now I'm not expecting this one to last. I'm not expecting this one to last either. Again, because none of these have got the wicks in them, which definitely makes a difference. Okie dokie. So that's the second one, the first external jet, just about out of fuel, and you can see it did a much better job than the internal jets. Still didn't quite get the water to a rolling boil, however. So I definitely think that we can draw a conclusion that these stoves do need some sort of internal filling, like a wick or something like that. It's just set itself alight again. Yeah, it has, but there's not much heat coming out of it. So yeah, these definitely need wicks to make them more efficient and able to boil water. Right, let's move on. Let's put the third one. Give it the third one. Okay, so this is the last one it's the last stove, and it's the second one with the external jets. Let's see if it'll take the last of the myths. Well, I suspect there's not enough fuel in here to get the water boiling anyway. Let's use up the last of it. There we go. I'm expecting some overspillage, and I'm expecting some fuel to land on the tile. But it's the last of the methylated spirits, so Okay, that's it pretty much out now. So I'll go back inside and I'll draw some conclusions. Okay, so time to draw some conclusions with the toucan and the penny stoves that I made. First of all, first conclusion, don't follow my instructions. They're obviously shit, which, no surprise there. I'm useless at these things. First of all, the one with the internal jets. I think the fuel leaked, and I've mentioned it a couple of times. I think the fuel leaked because as I was pushing them together, I'm pretty sure I split the base, so which caused fuel to spill out everywhere. The two external jet versions were obviously a lot better than the internal jet one, probably because I didn't split the bases. So better design made by me. Second conclusion, these stoves definitely work better with some sort of wick in the inside, some sort of filling material like cardboard or fiberglass, glass fiber, something like that, just to absorb and hold a bit more liquid. Thirdly, if you are going to make some of these stoves, practice, essentially make a few of them, trial and error, and that way you will find the best way of doing these things, find the best way of making these for you. Some of you prefer internal jets, some of you will prefer external jets. It's entirely up to you, but as I say, it's trial and error. With that being said, they are useful provided they're made properly, and yeah, with all that put together, like I say, they are good burners. They just need to be made a bit better than what I've made them here. So thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.